And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. We'll be covering an increase in the sunspot number today as we view 3 different wavelengths from the SDO. Likelihood of X-class flares remains very high as some large, majorly high-performing sunspot groups approach the western limb. Talking about this area up here. And we're going to cover cosmic rays today, as we haven't updated that for a while. So thanks for joining us at the Daily Space Weather. That's yesterday plus today in 3 wavelengths from the SDO. Here's the intensity gram. And we've got new named sunspot groups as forecast yesterday. 2 major sunspot groups, especially 3112 up here in the northeastern limb. Here's a colorized magnetogram, and these groups have been mostly stable here over the past 24 hours. A little bit of migration, not a whole lot of umbral growth or shrinkage. Looking at volcanoes, Stromboli has produced an effusive eruption. Some lava has overflowed the North Crater and slowly descended the Sciara del Fuoco. Most of the poorly fed lava was keeping in the crater area, though. Nishinoshima exploding, producing a flight level 090 over the volcano islands of Japan. Suwanosejima also exploded. Similarly sized ash plume there, a 9,000-foot column of volcanic ash. Tau in American Samoa has been downgraded to green status as the seismicity has decreased. So it looks like it's returned to background levels there at the Tau volcano on the American Samoan island. Popocatépetl continues to explode in central Mexico, though. It's producing a 20,000-foot plume of volcanic ash, flight level 200, just northeast of Mexico City. Fuego in Guatemala exploding, flight level 150. Sangay in Ecuador exploding, flight level 190. Revenador in Ecuador exploding, flight level 160. It's a 16,000-foot ash plume. 25,000-foot ash plume over Peru from Sabancaya as it explodes. Flight level 250. And Nevados de Chilean in central Chile, also exploding with a puff emission. Produced a 14,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Flight level 140. Please do not pole vault the caldera. Let's look at earthquakes. It's been pretty calm here over the past 24 hours. Although another decent-sized quake in the Recanes Ridge. We'll get to it. Not a lot of big quakes. I think that's the biggest quake in the world, as we continue to see activity there at the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, south-southeast of Greenland, at the boundary between the North American and European plate known as the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. So there it is at the Recanes Ridge, a 5.2, largest quake of the past 24 hours. Besides that, it's been pretty calm here. And let's get back to space. So here's the past 24 hours from SDO. We're going to show you some spectacular close-ups of those 2 major sunspot groups in the north. Thanks for leaving comments. One Audio and Mama D1K. Good morning to both of you. Radio flux now at 155 solar flux units. And for those new viewers out there, the radio flux comes from the upper chromosphere and lower corona. It is a proportional number to sunspot number. It rises with the sunspot number and vice versa. Discovered in 1947 by Canadian Radio operators using some old World War II equipment, they noticed that there was a radio flux coming from the sun. Later, it was discovered that it varied with the solar cycles. There's the 1-year graph of that. It's the black line. And you can see higher highs and higher lows here happening as we watch solar cycle 25 continue to ramp up. Expect this to continue to rise here over the next couple of years. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard by NOAA here, expecting some continued geomagnetic storm conditions until about midday tomorrow, and then some continued geomagnetic unrest all the way into October 6th. Which, by the way, is Smash Staff's birthday, so don't forget to wish Smash Staff a happy birthday. Also, we see geomagnetic unrest happening at the moment as we've got an elevated solar wind speed. And don't be surprised to see this rise a bit higher here, as we haven't seen a real good signal yet for a coronal hole high-speed stream. Here's the past 4 hours of Earth magnetic moment from space. This imagery shows the Space Weather Modeling Framework's model of magnetohydrodynamic pressure. If you want to read about where the Space Weather Modeling Framework comes from, click Details. There'll be a link to the Space Weather Modeling Framework. You can download all the software and check out all the variables. Here's 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Geospace Delta B changes to Earth's B field, ground magnetic perturbations in nanotesla magnetic flux density, also derived from the Space Weather Modeling Framework. It'll show you the most likely places on the planet for things like visible aurora, pipeline, rail line, and power line induction. It's a state of geomagnetic unrest. We expect to share some aurorae on the Twitter page. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. The official Twitter page of the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name in News, twitter.com/smashamash. We just put up a cosmology poll asking a question about stellar evolution. We want you to answer. Make sure you create a Twitter. If you don't have one, create a Twitter account and go follow us over at twitter.com/smashamash. Good morning to you also, Tinman1057. So there you go. Geomagnetic unrest conditions continuing here for the past 6 hours. And let's take a look at the real-time solar wind. We do have an elevated solar wind speed here. I would expect to see the density drop off and the solar wind speed to come up a little higher here. So we can expect it to be maybe 600, 650 kilometers per second when and if the coronal hole high-speed stream shows up in earnest. At the moment, we've got a 10.72 protons per cubic centimeter for the solar wind density. Solar wind speed about 550 kilometers per second. Besides that, pretty uneventful. And these geomagnetic storm conditions were caused just by this negative BZ coupled with a little increase in the solar wind density. Continuing on to the magnetic data, here are the GOES 16 and GOES 17 readings. The past 3 days, we're seeing these spiky sawtooth patterns as we typically do see with coronal hole high-speed streams. No surprises there. And let's take a look at the heliospheric current sheet. Is there a South Pole current sheet headed this way? Well, it certainly looks like it. At the moment, Earth and a North Pole current sheet depicted here in the top view ecliptic plane field plot in green. And most of the solar North Polar region here is sort of oriented toward the Earth. We are still waiting to see the migration of the North Solar Polar Field away from the heliographic North Pole. It's still somewhat fixated in that area. Here's our line of sight field plot. Sun's B field shown here in blue. The B field, by the way, for you new viewers, is the field that goes through the magnet. And moving to coronal holes. Thanks for your question about the Big Bang Theory and about whether it happened or not, Mama T1K. Unfortunately, we'll have to save that conversation for a cosmology segment. We've got a bunch of North Pole coronal holes here. Some of them way down by the south heliographic region, down here, and some south pole coronal holes here rotating into the north. So that's the solar polar field reversal process. Those northeasterly coronal holes not going to show up very well yet because there's a lot of bumpy plasma in the way. You can see a little bit of a hint of them. That's 211 angstroms for the past 24 hours from SDO. And let's move to sunspots. So we do have additional named sunspot groups as forecast yesterday. We've got 3,115, 3,116 up here, and 3,117. So I believe we've got all the groups appropriately named now. Likelihood of major solar flares very high, especially from sunspot 3,110 and 3,113 setting in the northwestern limb, this group over here. So let's take a look. Here is the SDO magnetometer for the past 24 hours. And let's zoom in and switch to intensity gram. Actually, SDO continuum. There you go. You can see some migration there. Not a lot of changes with respect to umbral size. No real changes in named sunspot groups. And let's take a look at 3,110 and 3,113 as they set in the northwestern limb there. Here's a close-up of those. Again, don't be surprised to see additional X-class flares from this group. Remember, folks, major flares more likely as sunspots set or rise. We'll also look close up at 3112 and that group above it, 3116, is it? That region very likely to produce major flares as well. And this sunspot here, 3112, is the most impressive sunspot, in my opinion, of the entire solar cycle so far. And here's that same view in 171 angstroms. Good stuff there from SDO. And let's zoom out and show one more view of the continuum, full disk, 24-hour SDO imagery. Many, many sunspots there, about the size of the entire planet. And next we're going to cover cosmic rays here. We haven't shown them for a few days. So here is the cosmic ray observatory, the neutron monitors from Apatity and Barentsburg. Little downtick there at Apatity. And also, well, it's actually flat at Barentsburg. So that's interesting. Little disparity there between the two far north monitors. Let's go much farther south to Athens, Greece. Here's the Athens neutron monitor. And we see a bit of an uptick there at Athens. Minor uptick at Athens, Greece. Let's go farther south to Mexico City. There's Mexico City. Significant downtick there at Mexico City. And let's go back north to Oulu, Finland. There's Oulu. Significant downtick at Oulu, Finland. Last but not least, let's check the South Pole. There's DOMB Antarctica. Downtick at DOMB Antarctica. And a similar graph, a downtick at DOMC Antarctica. That's your cosmic ray report. Let's take a look at relativistic particles detected around the Earth by the GOES-16 and just the GOES-16. Flatlined for the past about 18 hours there. The proton flux has returned to baseline levels. Don't be surprised to see a big spike in this if we see major solar flares. Next, the X-ray flux over the past 3 days. Several M-class flares. And let's take a look at it in some wavelengths specifically formulated to view solar flares, 131 and 94 angstroms. So there's 131 for the past 24 hours. The reason these wavelengths are better to view solar flares is because they take 10 images per minute instead of only 2 images per minute. They're both ionized iron species, by the way. The SDO is just spectacular. Next, looking at a star chart, if you're up before dawn, you may see Mercury rising ahead of the sun if you've got clear skies and a low horizon. Mars near the apex of its passage across the ecliptic, which is the yellow line here, the blue line there, the galactic plane. And let's do a solar system forecast. Keep in mind this imagery is not to scale. Let's advance this 1 week. Here's where things will be in 1 week. Mercury swinging around to blow past Venus once again. And let's take a look at some coronagraphs. So there have been quite a few CMEs here in the past 24. Are they earthly directed? I don't think they are. We are missing some data here, but so that's yesterday. That's 96 frames from yesterday. And here's today. That's 26 frames. Well, things have been calm so far today, but yesterday quite a few CMEs. And let's see if we can get a beat on those by looking at stereo A's imagery located at Lagrange 5 and the Soho-Lascaux C3 located at Lagrange 1, about 1 million miles between Earth and Sun. And we've paused this at 12:53 yesterday because there's been missing data from stereo A, but that CME there looks like it does have potential. But I think it is off to the west. You can see that CME there. It looks like it's mostly off to the north. That's depicted over here. You can see it right here. There is a part that looks like it is sort of on the Earth line, by the way. So from stereo A's perspective, Earth would be off like this. But we don't really see a halo from the Soho-Lascaux C3, so the indications are that that will miss Earth to the northwest. So that's my best guess on that. And we'll let that play through. And great images of Venus showing up there on both coronagraphs. And let's show a better composite series of images here from just the SDO 304 angstroms plus Soho-Lascaux C2 and C3. Pretty sure none of those are earthly directed. We see no halos showing up there, so let's move on. We have a massive number of filaments. So this is the hydrogen alpha imagery from the ground-based solar observatory at El Teide, Spain. And look at all the filaments in the southern hemisphere. Crazy number of huge filaments. Also in the northeast, lots of filaments. So the likelihood of additional coronal mass ejections, nearly 100%. We'll be streaming video of it on the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/smashomash. You can find links to that below the video. And before we get to bonus features, let's show the last about 2.5 hours from the GO 16 SUVI. Looks like some activity happening here around sunspot 3113. No surprises there. Here's the last 24 from SDO in the same wavelength there. Ionized helium 304. And we've moved into bonus features here. We see some significant charging hazards here for satellites. Some rather significant surface charging hazards here happening over the Caribbean, northern South America, and Mexico. That is caused by low-energy electrons building up on the surfaces of satellites. It could cause some communications breakdowns. Probably not any damage. Just some interruptions, perhaps, in communications. And here's the GOES electron flux over the past 3 days. We did get into warning levels there by the GOES 17's measurements for a brief period yesterday. We do see an interesting warning here on the NOAA site. Check it out. NOAA warning 72-hour fluence 10 to the 9th observed, which is off the scale, right at the top of the scale, actually. So we may see a huge uptick here in the electron flux. We'll keep an eye on it. And when I say ion, well, pardon the pun. Here's the one-year chart to put it in context, and that would put it all the way up here. If we do see 10 to the 9th, that would be the highest readings of the year. Next, the F layer of the ionosphere, the bridge between Earth and space in vibrational frequency. We are seeing some significant anomalies up there in the ionosphere. So some rapid swings from high to low frequency anomaly. That data from Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. And it's located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. That is the anomalygram that's showing anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. You can see some rapid swings there from high to low frequency anomaly over places like South America especially. And that's partially because the South Atlantic anomaly is right about where this X is located. Over the center part of the South American continent, the South Atlantic anomaly perhaps needs to be renamed to the South American anomaly. But big-time anomalies happening here of both the high and low frequency variety, and some rapid shifts happening up there in the ionosphere. And let's take a look at the latest image. There's 10:15 Universal Time. Continuing on to look at the total electron content. Total electron content shows the free electrons between your GPS satellite and your handset. That's about 12.5 thousand miles. And those free electrons cause GPS errors. Here are the most likely spots for those. Total electron content here remaining rather orderly. No major anomalies there, but quite large regions of high electron content. Mostly oriented around the equator at noon. And we're going to close out the space weather section here with some more solar imagery. Here's the latest magnetogram in high res. There's sunspot 3110 and 3113. They are quite spectacular. Beta gamma class sunspot groups there. And let's check 3112. There's 3112 and 3116. Yowzers. That is a lot of sunspots. 3112, the most impressive sunspot of solar cycle 25. I'm fairly convinced it is beta gamma delta class all day. All day, oy vey. And we'll bring up one more series from SDO. This is yesterday plus today in 3 wavelengths. 2 of ionized iron, 1 of ionized helium. As we move from the realm of space weather to Earth weather. We used to make it a separate video. We've decided to switch back. And let me pause for station identification. Thanks for tuning in. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists despite the pathetic censorship on various platforms. By the way, we're paid just this side of nothing to put the videos on YouTube. So thanks to the Smash team for being executive producers of the content. SmashOmash.com/Smash Team is where you can support the channel. Become a gold or silver Smash Team member. The best value is the gold annual paid up subscription. You can find our links there. We just made some changes to the forum also. Once again, shout out to Smash staff for changing the color themes of the forum. If you want to visit the links below the video, one of the links you'll find is to the Redbubble shop. The products are listed in order of best selling. And today I'm wearing a product which cannot be mentioned. I'll show you, but I won't say it. Today's featured product is Do Not Pole Vault the Caldera. And yeah, what I'm wearing is shouldn't really be controversial in any way, but it is. And it contains words that shall not be said on YouTube because fascism. Gotta have a little fascism with your social media. And of course, censorship and centralization are dead as they travel forth as zombie companies continue to exist based on their own inertia, not through any innovation or anything resembling skill, talent, or training. But no matter how bad things get, folks, do not pole vault the Caldera. You can get the lovely, colorful design here on various different products, like the tote bag, or perhaps a throw blanket. Maybe a shower curtain with Do Not Pole Vault the Caldera. It's a message of positivity. Because if you're going through hell, keep going. Our finest days lie ahead, folks, so don't be fatalistic. If you're visiting an active volcano, leave your vault pole at home. And please don't pole vault the Caldera. You can find links to that on the homepage as well as below the video in the description. Click the Smash-O merch on the homepage. You can also find all kinds of links, like a permanent link to our Discord chat. You need an invite to join a Discord chat, and the permanent link is there on the homepage. SmashOmash.com, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Once again, congratulations on realizing the channel exists. Once again, thanks to the Smash team, especially Gold and Silver Smash team members, for increasing the probability that these videos will remain in existence, publicly visible, and free for all to view. Last but not least, one other link you can find on the homepage is to SureMed. Membership with SureMed is not insurance. It's a membership in a nonprofit organization known as the American Better Health Organization, Incorporated, with the focus of improving the health of its members. So you get all kinds of features just with a membership, as well as access to certain types of insurance like critical illness insurance, accident insurance, hospital indemnity insurance, dental and vision, even life insurance available. So check it out. Again, links on the homepage at SmashOmash.com, on the Smash Team site, and below this video in the description section. Discounts on vision, dental, virtual veterinarians are one of the features because your pet's health matters also. Doctors by phone, counselors by phone. Are you losing your you-know-what? Become a member of SureMed and reach counselors by phone. Improve your health through a membership to the American Better Health Organization. Take a moment to press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. If you're viewing the videos on BitChute, make sure you go subscribe over on YouTube. You're missing a bunch of the content, like those shorts of Sunspot 3112 we put up on Sunday night. You'll also find playlists over at YouTube featuring things like product reviews, terms defined, SmashOmash.org presents the sun, and lots more. And once again, thanks for putting up with the pathetic censorship on the platform as we move to the realm of meteorology. So we haven't looked at it for a few days here, so we're now looking at sea surface temperatures and ocean currents. By the way, today's hairdo was brought to you by the northern mockingbird. So there's what's going on in the North Atlantic. It's the Gulf Stream, and there's a lot of anomalously warm water up there. That's the sea surface temperature anomaly and ocean currents. So, and you can see that ocean currents are indeed still making it to places like Ireland and Iceland, which is why we didn't see a year without a summer. Europe is not freezing by any stretch of the imagination. So let's just dispel that nonsense right now. The Gulf Stream is still flowing. Now let's just show the whole world here. Here's the polar region. Sea surface temperature anomaly. Here's the south earthly polar region. There's the Indian Ocean. There's the Atlantic. And there is the Pacific. And here are the surface winds of this side of the planet. A strong anticyclone here, south of Tasmania. You can see that counterclockwise rotation indicating clear skies, lots of nitrogen, and not a lot of water. It's an anticyclone. Here are the jet streams of the east. Here are the jet streams of the west. Here are the surface winds of the Americas. As this low continues to linger off the coast of Virginia Beach, as we showed you the last couple days in the forecasts. Powerful low here centered over Iceland. Here are the surface winds of the central world. And last but not least, the jet streams. Shout out to our viewers from all around the planet. Greetings, Earthlings, and the rest of you. Thanks for tuning in. So here is the 3.9 nanometer infrared radiation satellite for the Americas. It's showing clouds and fog. And let's get into some additional weather data. Foggy over most of the east coast of the U.S. at the moment. Here's your weather.gov map, and we still have some hard freeze warnings there over large portions of Maine. If your county's lit, click your county at weather.gov. A lot of coastal flood advisories there in places like Delaware and New Jersey. So we're going to show the pressure and precipitation forecast here. It was not available when we did show prep, so let's bring up a GIF animation of it. That's how it's done on Tropical Tidbits. TropicalTidbits.com. And it looks like a bunch of snow in the forecast there for the Great Lakes region of Canada. Anyway, that low now finally expected to move off to the east. Good riddance, it's rained for days here in Pennsylvania, and I'm getting pretty sick of it. That's your GFS pressure and precipitation forecast for the next 72 hours. And here is your satellite imagery. Give that a minute to queue up there. It's well worth it. Spectacular imagery there from the windy.com app. There's a great mobile app for your junkware device. Smartphones making people dumber than they've ever been, despite having access to the most information ever available to mankind. What is up with that? Here is the GOES Lightning Mapper. And it's been pretty calm here. Let's check our real-time lightning map. Do we have any terrestrial strikes? We may in South Dakota. Is there thunder rolling in? I don't know. Give it a minute. Lightningmaps.org. It can save your bacon. Okay. It looks like it's live. We've got some active lightning here in southeastern Arizona. Bunch of strikes happening there. west of Safford. And northeast of Tucson. Anyway, there's your global lightning map. And let's continue on. We don't want the video to be too long, so here is your U.S. Doppler radar map. We'll zoom out briefly to show all 50 states of the Banana Republic, the allegedly United States of America. And we'll focus on the lower 48. A line of rain there stretching from Kansas up to Lake Superior. And here is our 3.9 nanometer radiation map for the lower 48. Very foggy along the Atlantic coast there. Very foggy indeed. And here is the water vapor map. You can see that low there rotating and rotating. Just hanging out. It's a loitering low, folks. And here's your recap. This should clear things up if you're not familiar with weather forecasting, if your Doppler radar is not giving you the full picture. You could use the visible satellite if it's light out. We use a 3.9 nanometer radiation satellite because it's usually dark when we make these videos. And last but not least, there is the water vapor map. It shows all the water vapor, not just that which is condensed onto clouds. And that is where we must end things. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-A-Mash, signing off from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And may that solar wind be at your back. Opinions expressed in this video are not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, least busted name in news.